Imagine walking alone in the woods at dusk, the light fading fast when you hear an eerie chant echoing through the trees. It's low, almost like a whisper, but it feels like it's coming from everywhere at once. As you strain to hear, the sound suddenly stops, leaving only an unsettling silence and the creeping sense that you're not alone. Witches. For centuries, they've been the subject of fear and fascination, their lore woven into the fabric of cultures around the world. From the dark forests of medieval Europe to the rural towns of modern America, the idea of witches, people who wield mysterious powers, who commune with forces beyond our understanding, has both terrified and intrigued us. But while many dismiss witches as mere myths, there are those who claim to have encountered them in real life. Tonight, we'll explore some of these chilling stories, each one offering a glimpse into the unknown, where the line between reality and legend blurs. In the quiet town of Beachwood, Pennsylvania, in 1978, a local farmer named Tom Jenkins reported a disturbing encounter. It was late October, just days before Halloween, when Tom noticed something unusual. His livestock began acting strangely, cows refusing to enter the barn, chickens scattering in panic at unseen threats. One night, as he checked the barn, Tom saw a figure at the edge of his property. The figure was cloaked, and though the moonlight was dim, he could see it was an old woman, her face obscured by shadows. When Tom called out, she stared, then vanished into the night. The next morning he found strange symbols etched into the wood of his barn door. Symbols he couldn't explain. In 1993, near the town of Salem, Massachusetts, a group of teenagers decided to explore the infamous Gallows Hill, the site of the historic witch trials. What began as a harmless night of ghost hunting quickly turned sinister. As they reached the summit, they stumbled upon a small circle of stones, each inscribed with runes. Suddenly, a gust of wind whipped through the clearing, and the temperature dropped sharply. The group reported hearing whispers, though no one was there. One of the teens, Sarah, claimed she saw a woman in old-fashioned clothing standing among the trees, watching them. Frightened, they ran back to their car, but Sarah was never the same. She became withdrawn, plagued by nightmares, convinced that the woman had followed her home. In the summer of 2006, in a remote village in Romania, a local woman named Anna Maria had an encounter that still haunts her. She was gathering herbs in the forest, a common task in her village, when she noticed a peculiar scent, sweet, but with a sharp undertone that made her uneasy. Following the scent, she came across a small, dilapidated cottage she had never seen before. Curious, she approached, but before she could knock, the door creaked open on its own. Inside, she saw an elderly woman stirring a pot over a fire. The woman looked up, and Anna Maria felt a sudden chill. The woman's eyes were unnaturally dark, and she smiled in a way that made Anna Maria's blood run cold. Without a word, Anna Maria fled the cottage, but when she turned back, it was gone. One of the most terrifying encounters took place in the mountains of North Carolina in 2011. A family vacationing in a rented cabin experienced what they could only describe as an encounter with a witch. On their second night, they heard footsteps on the porch, but when they checked, no one was there. The next day, they found strange bundles of twigs tied with red string hanging from the trees surrounding the cabin. As night fell, the atmosphere grew more oppressive. At around midnight, they heard a loud banging on the door. When the father opened it, he was confronted by a tall woman with wild hair and piercing eyes, her clothes tattered and filthy. She muttered in a language they didn't understand, then screamed and fled into the woods. The family left the cabin the next morning, but they later learned that the cabin was rumored to be cursed. Locals believed it was built on land once owned by a woman accused of witchcraft centuries ago. The aftermath of these encounters left those involved shaken, their beliefs forever altered. Tom Jenkins, the farmer in Pennsylvania, became increasingly paranoid, refusing to leave his house after dark. His once thriving farm fell into disrepair, and he eventually sold the property, unable to shake the fear that the old woman would return. The teenagers in Salem were left with more questions than answers. Sarah's nightmares persisted for years, and she became obsessed with researching witchcraft, convinced that she had been marked by the woman on Gallows Hill. The others distanced themselves from the incident, but the memory of that night stayed with them, a constant reminder of the darkness that lingers in places steeped in history. Anna Maria in Romania avoided the forest for the rest of her life. She never spoke of the encounter to anyone, fearing that acknowledging it might summon the witch back. Yet, she couldn't escape the feeling that the woman was always watching, waiting. These stories remind us that the line between reality and legend is often thin, especially when it comes to witches. Whether these encounters were with real witches or simply the product of fear and superstition, they have left an indelible mark on those who lived through them. They serve as a stark reminder that some legends, no matter how ancient, still hold power over us today. As we move further into the 21st century, the fascination with witches endures, fueled by stories like these that blur the boundaries of our understanding. Do you have your own story of a strange encounter? Whether it's with witches, ghosts, or something else entirely, share your experience in the comments below. And if you want more tales of the unexplained, be sure to check out my other videos exploring the dark corners of our world. Don't forget to subscribe to the Phantasmal Eternity channel and hit the bell icon to stay updated on all things eerie and mysterious.